What's going on, United students? I was going to say we're back, but we're not back. We're just actually getting started. I can't say we're back if this is the first time we've ever done this, but we're here. That's how I'll start.
Yeah,
we're here with the United Students Unscripted podcast. And so we really just want to be able to have an opportunity to sit down, have a conversation, and I'm joined by Dylan Harden. Some of y'all are like, "Who's Dylan?" Dylan is he's the producer of this show. He's this is the brains of him. One of the things that we've just been talking about, dreaming about. What would it look like for United students to have a podcast? And everybody has a podcast, and so we figured, why not us, right? Everybody else has one. We may as well have one also.
We might as well.
No, but as we're sitting down. I love being able to hang out with students every single Wednesday, including First Wednesdays. I know First Wednesdays are not just for students, but a lot of y'all come out on First Wednesdays. I love being able to hang out with y'all on Wednesdays. But I also know that, at least for myself, maybe Dylan can speak on it for himself, but I'm on YouTube all the time. I'm on TikTok a lot, just scrolling, right? You know what I mean? And like I said, everybody's got a podcast, but it's always even like, influencers and other Christians and other followers of Jesus. Everybody's got a place, a platform, right? And so we wanted something where y'all are able to kind of get a little bit more, maybe me in a little more comfortable environment, right? You know what I mean? Maybe not the preachy me on stage or whatever you want to call it. But just being able to have a place where we're able to talk, we're able to have conversations, where we're able to get, even in future weeks and months, where we're able to get students in the room, we're able to get students, people who maybe even you, like on the couch here, just like talking about your experience. Maybe we'll have different topics from week to week and month to month as as midweek goes. I know if y'all were with us in the month of February, we're talking a lot about relationships. We're talking about a lot about like dating and singleness and finding friends, finding your people, all that good stuff. And so, as we get to the end of different months, maybe there's something we're talking about relationships, but y'all didn't talk about this, you know what I mean? And so maybe even like, feel free to reach out to us, DM us on Instagram or wherever, and be like, hey, I'd love for y'all to talk about more about this on the podcast, and we'd love to. Like, that's what it's here for.
That's what it's for.
We want to be able to have like a forum where you guys are able to ask questions and us have like conversation around them, because I love being able to spend time. I love being able to preach. I love being able to teach and give y'all like a word for Wednesday nights. But I think sometimes there's things that are way better in conversation than they are for me to be like preaching at you. Because some things, I just want to be able to hear from y'all. I want to hear what your perspective is in school these days. I've been out of school for 8 years. You know what I mean? And so, and even like how long have you been out of high school?
I just got out of high school, so I'm a freshman in college right now.
Yeah, freshman college. So. But even like coming to the end of that freshman year, it's like you're almost out of high school for 2 years now. And so it's a weird thing to think about. But I know that like that doesn't change that y'all are in different situations every single week where you're surrounded by people in school who don't live the way you live or believe the things you believe. And so we want to be able to just have a conversation about it. I want to get y'all's thoughts and hear what your experience is like. And we can talk about, what it's like being a high schooler or a middle schooler now, and just being able to get a little bit more time. But
because there's truly not enough time on a Wednesday night to talk about like each individual story or what people are going through,
Yeah, exactly. And so we want this to be like an open forum, an open place for you guys. But so Dylan, I'd love to get some of like, where did this start for you? Where'd the idea come from of like, man, I want there to be a podcast? What was the heart behind it?
So I was actually, it was over summer. I was working on this construction site for actually Capital. It's one of their new schools. And I was listening to a podcast, this You Should Know podcast. I love Peyton and Cam.
Oh, yeah. We all know Peyton and Cam.
Yeah, they're a vibe. I love them. You can't not know. Yeah. And I was just thinking, I was like, what would happen if like United had this for like the students or just in general, just like a podcast for people to like kind of put in questions or whatever they might want to talk about, for like have like a like someone to just kind of speak into their life over a certain issue or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of was thinking on this. I was like, maybe this is something we should do, maybe not. I was kind of thinking of it like, is this something United would want to do? Because yeah, I would serve and all that, but like I'm also just
will Pastor
like,
Lucas actually go for this?
yeah, like is he kind of that open minded into something like this? Because this is something new. We haven't done anything like this before, besides like going in on a Sunday and just or a Wednesday, just hearing PK or you preach on a Wednesday night, right? Yeah. So I just kind of wanted something for the students, especially during the week, outside of midweek and Sundays, to kind of have something they could, listen to, so like music or something like that.
Yeah.
So they always have something speaking into their life, someone speaking in their life, having someone always there for them,
Oh yeah. And like I said even earlier, is like I know I'm on YouTube all the time. Like I'm always on TikTok. I'm scrolling. I see these podcast clips, and for me, I'm like, man, I love being able to like have a good time and laugh. Yeah. But at the same time, I know like there was the thought, like especially after you started like talking to me about this whole thing of like, man, what would it look like for students to do a podcast? I just remember being like, man, if I had a podcast, and for those of y'all that don't know, like Pastor Kenneth, like on Sunday mornings, he was my student's pastor. Like Pastor Kenneth was my student's pastor, and I didn't grow up in church. I wasn't raised in church. Like I didn't start going to church until I was going to, United back in the day when Pastor Kenneth was my student's pastor when I was like 13. And so, but I remember just like thinking like, man, if I would have had something like this where I can tune in, where I can have a lot of my questions answered, where some things maybe, hey, I get it. Sometimes I can be confusing when I'm preaching, but if I'm able to like, man, if I was able to like write in and be like, hey, can you talk more about this? Like, you
just provide more clarity.
Yeah, you talked this past week about like singleness, but you didn't talk so much about like, man, what about those of us who like find ourselves in this situation or that situation or whatever? Like, can you talk to us about that? Like, hey, I want to hear your life, like, not your life story, but I want to hear more about like, where did you experience this? Like, and I want this to be a place where I can be a little bit more transparent, where I can tell a little bit more like stories of like where I've lived through some of these things. Like I'm not, and I would say the same for like me and then all the other pastors who we've ever had like preach at a midweek. Like we've all lived through a lot of the things that we're preaching to you. Like, you know what I mean? Like I've been through like seasons of singleness, you know what I mean? Where I'm like, man, I don't really have anybody in my life right now. You know what I mean? And I got to figure out, what do I do with this time? How do I use it well so there's not wasted time when I get to the other side of this? And so it's like a lot of things that I preach is because I lived through it and I've been there and I've done it. And I want this to be a place where you guys can ask questions, be encouraged, maybe get a different side of myself and whoever's in the room with me. You know, some weeks it may be Pastor David, Pastor Parker, Pastor Kenneth, Pastor Nick. Like you never know who's gonna end up on the couch here with me. But yeah, I want it to be a place where we can share things like that and have experiences. I want you guys to be represented. I want students to be represented in the room, because it's easy to just listen to me sit up here and just yap all day long about whatever and answer these questions. But like, I want to get some of y'all in the room and hear about like, man, what's it like living in your shoes? You know what I mean? Like, what are the things that you have to make daily decisions about? Who are the people you're surrounded by, and what's it like living there? And I want us to realize, like, over time, you probably notice, like, man, me being a student at CR, like everybody else is living my same experience. You know what I mean? Like, man, I go to CR, they go to Lake, but like they're living the same thing I'm living with. Like they're dealing with the same crowds of people. They're dealing with the same decisions. They're dealing with a lot of the same like teachers and all kinds of different things like that. So, but yeah, so that's where this idea kind of came from and is for. But we're here for y'all. We're here for you guys.
Yeah, we're here for y'all. You know, this is the whole point of this, for you guys to.
Do you maybe have like any questions from? I mean, you've been here for the past month. Even we've been doing relationship series on Sunday. We've been doing relationship series on Wednesday nights. We've been talking about relationships all February. You can't get away from it. Maybe and you're in a relationship now. Maybe as you get through these relationship series, like what's something that like you're like that's been big for you even.
Like communication. I feel like that's a big part of a relationship. Like, if you're not communicating, none of it works out whatsoever. Yeah. And I think that's something I've struggled in as a person. I mean, I'm bad at communicating, period, but like...
Listen, people are lucky if they get a text back from
no.
Evan, all right? And so, I'm the worst... Just so y'all know, I'm the worst text backer ever, right? And I will ghost people accidentally, unintentionally, right? You know, and then they text me like 3 days later, and I'm like, yeah, and like don't be that guy you're trying to respond now. You know what I mean? They're like, I asked you the other day if you wanted something from Dairy Queen. Don't tell me 2 days later. Yes, you missed it. You missed it. It's too late for you.
No, there's times where I've asked my dad for something, like something small, like he's coming home from work, like, yo, can you pick this up for me? I won't get a response till he gets home. I'm like, did you see the text? He's like, nah. I'm like,
no, that's the problem. I do see the text. I do see the text.
That's terrible. That's terrible.
There are times.
Oh my God.
3 days ago, I texted a friend from college. We were talking guitar stuff back and forth. For those of y'all don't know, I play guitar. I'm just not like some weird. Like, I'm not just like, I was looking at this guitar the other day. Like, but we were texting like guitar stuff back and forth, and I typed out a whole message to him. A whole message. I was like, he was like showing me like pictures of like his new like pedal board, all this stuff. I was like, oh man, I didn't see the second picture you posted. Like that's my bad. Like we were texting back and forth, and I never hit send. I sent him a whole text message, like a paragraph.
No, that's happened to me so many times.
And just never hit send. And then like 3 days later, I texted him back and I hit send, and then I had to send a follow up text, and I was like, I just saw it. That's my bad. And he was like, but he knows me. I basically lived with this guy in college. He's like, classic. I was like, which don't respond classic to me, because now I'm annoyed. All right.
Right.
It's okay. I have already acknowledged that I messed up. All right. I've already acknowledged that was my fault.
No,
don't turn around and be like,
point.
nice one. You know what I mean? Like that's disrespectful. That's disrespectful.
You're dragging it at that point.
Yeah,
you know,
you're dragging
it in their face.
That's not fair. That's not fair. All right. I admitted it.
Yeah.
Calm down.
Right.
But no, communication's a big thing. Communication's big. And it's something that, you know, whether you're even with, but I said to like, even in friendships, you know what I mean? Like, even if it's not like a boyfriend, girlfriend, your future wife, future husband, even if it's not them, it's like, you know, communicating with people is important. You know what I mean? Like being somebody who people can reliably talk to, and you can be clear, and like, how many times you have to be like, that's not what I meant. You know what I mean? Like, but it's important. It's important to work on, to be clear, to, you know, take those steps to care enough about like how you're talking to a person to say what you mean, and mean how you say it.
Yeah, like me, I've known this one of my best friends since elementary school, right? And there's times where we won't talk for like a minute or two, and then like we'll send a text to each other, and it'd be like just like we were in like elementary school, just talking, yapping back and forth, right? And it's just like kind of finding that person that's like kind of has kind of the same humor as you, but also kind of compliments you as a person, to kind of talk to you in a friendly way, whatever, you know. You
need to find the friends in your life who you can leave on red. Right?
Yeah.
And they don't
leave
care.
on red, and they won't be mad at you.
And they're not gonna be mad at you.
Yeah.
Because they'll do it right back. Right.
Right. Yeah.
You need to find the friend who you could talk to them after 2 months of not saying a word to them.
Yeah.
And you're cool. Yeah. And it's like nothing ever happened. If you don't have a friend like that, then I don't know that you have real friends.
Yeah. No. Yeah. That's a fair assessment.
He's like, that's a fair point.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
We've all got that person who we're like, I'm convinced, all right, and you can tell me if I'm wrong about this. Everybody's best friend, you haven't talked to them in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
At least for guys. Maybe we got Maya in the room. Maya, do girls know when each other's birthdays are?
It really depends.
All right. Your best friend, do you know her birthday? Do you know her birthday? That's crazy. The people who I would claim that they're my best friends in the world, I don't know their birthday.
Yeah. Like, I won't know their birthday until they post about it on their story or something.
Or until somebody else.
Okay.
Listen, now, you want to talk about a relationship? My wife tells me when my best friends' birthdays are. She's like, it's so-and-so's birthday today. Did you text them? And I'm like, of course I've texted them. And I'm like, yo, happy birthday, bro. Love you, man.
No, there's times I've gone on.
And that's what marriage is like, okay?
Yeah.
And that's what it's
no, there's
like
times
this is the worst advice I've ever given out in my life. That's what marriage is like.
That's terrible.
Right? That's terrible.
That's terrible.
No,
I'm glad that she's there to
loving
like
another person. Right?
Yeah, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Like that's like
because she knows I didn't text them. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's what she's doing. She's looking out for me.
I'm glad she knows you as a person like that.
That's right. That's right.
I love that.
That's called time in. You know what I mean? She's spent enough time around me at this point. Yeah, that she knows. But no, so I don't know what we're even talking about.
I don't know.
Point, but,
I don't know.
But no, so our whole point,
is
this podcast is for you.
It is for you.
We want you guys to have a place where it's a forum where you can get a little bit more of the real version of myself, of our guest who's on that week. This week we got Dylan. We got who better to have on week one than the mastermind behind this podcast.
Yeah.
And so now every time that you think about this podcast, just look at you have a face to tie to it now, and somebody who kind of came with the idea originally. I'll be here every week.
Yeah.
But no, we want to hear from you. We want to have questions as midweeks go by, as Sundays go by. If there's something that confuses you, if you're reading in your Bible, you're doing a Devo, you're doing Lamp and Light, you're doing whatever, and you're like, hey, can you talk more about this whole thing?
Yeah.
I don't really get it. You know what I mean? Like I wish there was a place where I could just go ask questions about the Bible that wasn't Google. You know what I mean? Like I wish a person could be like breaking things down for me. And while I can't promise that we'll get around to every single DM, every single question. Maybe you were here in June and you were here for the You Asked For It. We did a You Asked For It series where you guys are able to submit questions. And I know that just in conversations with some of you, that's some of the most help that you've had. You're like, man, I've been wondering some of these like certain things and certain topics for so long. And now I'm able to like have that question answered. And now I'm able to have some clarity on it. I'm starting to understand. I'm starting to get it. And so we want to be able to offer something like that all the time. That there's a place where hey, I can tune in that they're taking into consideration the things that I'm asking, the questions I'm asking. And so we would love to hear from you. We'd love to talk more with you guys. And we just can't wait to see where this podcast goes and the conversations and the people we get to have around the table here. And
I'm really excited for it.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah,
it's gonna be great.
amazing.
But until next time, we're just getting started, and we can't wait to talk with you guys soon. But we'll see y'all next time.
Yeah, next time.